Welcome to our session on opportunities in green growth. My name's Anna Bright and I'm Chief Executive at Sustainability West Midlands, and I'm going to be facilitating the session this morning. We've got some excellent speakers. We have 4 speakers joining us. We've got Jackie Homan from the West Midlands Combined Authority. We have Matthew Rhodes from Camirus. We have Jacob Solomon from Foresso and Anthony Evans from Sarginsons Industries. And I would encourage you as we go along, if you have questions for our panelists, if you're able to pop them into the Q&A option. Hopefully you can see that just to the right of the screen. I can see some questions there already. I can see that my colleague Julie I don't think has been able to share her slides. So if you bear with me, I'm going to see if I can share mine and we can get going. So hopefully you should now be able to see the slides in front of you. Okay, so thinking about green growth, I thought it was useful just to share exactly what we mean by green growth. So there's many definitions out there. I think, you know, over 15 different definitions from various reputable sources, but the one that I've shared with you on the screen is from the World Bank, and this specifies that green growth is efficient in its use of natural resources, clean in that it minimises pollution and environmental impacts, but also resilient in that it accounts for natural hazards and the role of environmental management and natural capital to prevent physical disasters. And I like that definition because it's comprehensive and it also really aligns to the work of Sustainability West Midlands. Everything we do, I think, would be classed as trying to support green growth, along with all the support that we provide to our stakeholders. So that's probably enough from me. I'm now going to hand over to our first speaker, who is Jackie Homan, Head of Environment at the West Midlands Combined Authority, to tell us about the very new West Midlands Business Pledge. Over to you, Jackie.
Thanks very much, Anna. And I do apologise if my internet goes a little bit glitchy. I've got 2 children homeschooling, so we've got lots of draw on our internet bandwidth at the minute. At the West Midlands Combined Authority, and just by way of context, the Combined Authority has set a target to be net zero by 2041, and we know to do that we're going to need to work collaboratively with other public sector organisations, so with our local authority partners who are doing significant work in this space as well, with the public and communities, but also with business in order to I guess galvanise a collective effort around reaching net zero and the work we have to do. So if we can move on to the next slide. So the business pledge came out of a meeting that Andy Street coordinates, the Economic Impact Group, which initially was looking at how the region might strengthen its recovery from COVID-19. And one of the things that came from that was a call from business to work with us on our net zero pledge. As I've mentioned, so the first point there around the collective effort to tackle climate change and some of the huge challenges, but also opportunities that we have in getting to net zero, but also helping to celebrate the business efforts, because there's a huge amount going on within the region's businesses to reach net zero, and signposting to some of the useful resources for our businesses to help them in their net zero journey as well. And then also being clear what the benefits for business are. So in terms of reducing environmental impact, some of the financial benefits of doing that, positioning your business as a leader in the net zero carbon economy, and also preparing your business for climate change impacts, which goes back to the point Anna was making around resilience. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So to do that, it's not something we wanted to do in isolation of business. So, you know, I work in the public sector. We felt it was important to work with business in developing this pledge to understand what's really needed. And Anna and Sustainability West Midlands have been working alongside us to help us in terms of expanding the networks and the conversations with business. So this is very much something we're doing in partnership with Sustainability West Midlands. And these are some of the founding partners that have come on board to help us shape the pledge and to help us understand what the needs from the business community are in terms of the net zero challenge. And I think what's interesting is we've got very large businesses, but also understanding how we can work with some of the smaller businesses that might just be one or two people working together, and how can they also contribute to the net zero journey. So we've been really lucky to have, for example, the federal as well, to make sure this is relevant for all of the West Midlands business community. So if we could go on to the next slide, please. So the pledge, it's still in development. We've had a lot of consultation and Anna has helped us with that. And it will be hosted on the Combined Authority website. And the various actions that we have worked with business to explore are, how to make a plan to help reduce your business's carbon emissions. And we're going to have a list of actions that businesses might be able to take, again, relevant from the smallest to the largest businesses to reach net zero. Collaborating and working with others. So how can we build a community around our net zero ambitions? Being an ambassador for the region and your own business's climate change efforts. So shouting about the really good things that are happening. And we will use the website to publicise some of those things, to provide case study material to inspire others, and also highlight where there are challenges so that we can collectively tackle those. So we are hoping that the website will be up and running in March. We've held back a little bit because of COVID and businesses are experiencing. And so we hope to have it up and running by March on the Combined Authority website. And it will be an evolving process as we receive feedback from the businesses that we're working with to make it better and more relevant over time. But we hope it will be a really useful resource and will help us build community around net zero ambitions. Thank you, Anna.
Thanks, Jackie. And thank you to everybody who's starting to pop questions in. We have got a very specific question for you, Jackie, around the pledge. So the pledge sounds great, but at the moment hasn't made its way to Shropshire. This has come from Vicky at the Crest Centre in Shrewsbury. So I think Vicky's wondering whether there will be a marketing campaign planned, and if you can tell us a bit more about that.
So at the minute, we're working with the Combined Authority communications team to understand how we market the pledge and get it out far and wide, because the wider we can communicate that this is a thing and is happening, the better. We want as many businesses involved as possible. So once it's up and running, we'll have a comms plan around it that we're developing alongside the website. So hopefully the publicity around that will reach you.
Yeah, and we'll be supporting with that as well. So yeah, thanks for that, Jackie. Another question from Richard Bruges, who's asked, in supporting the transition to net zero locally, whether you think it's more important to help create the market, support product development, or provide a long-term plan that enables businesses to make decisions. So that's probably a question we could talk about for the rest of the session. But Jackie, do you have any feedback for Richard there?
Sorry, I missed that last bit, Anna.
That's fine. I'll read it again.
Well, I think what I was picking up on is the certainty that the public sector might be able to play in creating the conditions for businesses to reach net zero. So I think there are a whole range of things that we're doing in terms of our climate plan, and we're just on the cusp of producing our first 5-year plan to reach net zero, where there will be some very specific things that we need to do to get there that will help stimulate the market for some of the products, for example, around retrofit, support the development of skills that businesses might need in order to achieve net zero, but also create that longer term vision and plan to support businesses and to create the kind of direction of travel where there can be certainty around investing in particular products, services. Does that answer the question, Anna?
Yes, yeah, I think it probably does, given the time that we have available. There's quite a few questions coming in now. I'm going to go to one from Malcolm Harbour, who asks whether the pledge can be underpinned by all the public authorities in the Regio next to include sustainability in procurement tenders. So how the pledge can be used to support procurement for the benefit of low carbon.
So I'm not surprised Malcolm's asked that question. But yes, alongside the work that will support businesses in doing, it's also about looking at how and what we procure as an organisation. So we are working with our procurement team around social value and also embedding things like low and zero carbon into our procurement processes.
Thank you, Jackie. I know it's definitely a focus for you and many of our other local authorities as well. So Pam's popped a question in around will there be opportunities for smaller businesses working together locally to help them to collaborate and share ideas, have very local support networks and come up with solutions? Obviously flagging the fact that often SMEs don't have the time or the capacity to build their own strategies and action plans. And that's actually is linked to another question that Vicky has asked around the role of climate action partnerships. So, you know, cross-sector partnerships that are working locally. I mean, my perspective would be yes, and there's some brilliant local networks around that can certainly support smaller and micro businesses. Jackie, comment from you, and then I'll make one final comment before we go to our next speaker.
Yeah, so I think that that ability to link organisations and bring them together will be really important, and I think that will be a next iteration of how we roll this pledge out in a very practical way. And just to be clear, that's why we wanted to work with Anna and Sustainability West Midlands, because they've got real expertise in that space through some of their green business networks. So I think in working and talking to businesses and understanding what will be needed to get this live and up and running, that will definitely be a next step for the pledge, taking it forward.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. I know we haven't got through all of them. I can see a couple of people offering their services, their products and so on, which may help others address emissions within their own organisation. So do please follow up on those directly. But what I'd like to do now is invite our next speaker, Matthew Rhodes from Camirus, to share with us his work on the Repowering the Black Country net zero cluster. So Matthew, would you like to join us?
Thanks very much, Anna. And hello, everybody. So my name is Matthew Rhodes. I lead on energy for the Black Country Local Enterprise Partnership, and I also chair Energy Capital in the West Midlands. I've been working on trying to build markets, commercial markets for low carbon energy in the UK and the West Midlands for the last 25 years now, which suddenly seems like a long time. I'm here today to talk about the Repowering the Black Country project specifically, which has just started this month in the Black Country. It's one of a range of initiatives across the West Midlands, increasing range, I'm pleased to say, in this space, which Jackie's also just alluded to. And they're all about creating a context in which businesses can benefit from the transition to clean growth. And just to emphasise, in terms of repowering the Black Country, it's particularly targeting existing manufacturing businesses who may not even, who principally aren't in low carbon technologies particularly. It's about ensuring that all businesses in the Black Country can transition to a clean growth context. If we move on to the next slide, please. It's a 2-year project. It starts from a statement which is true but meaningless, which is that global decarbonisation is a significant opportunity. It's a true statement, and it's much talked about. It's meaningless because not many businesses deliver global decarbonisation. Businesses do very specific things, so it's really important to try and break that down for any given place, in our case the Black Country, into what specific opportunities global decarbonisation might create for Black Country businesses. So we did an initial piece of work last year as a kind of prelude to the project, and that chart there shows the 4 areas where the Black Country needs to take action. Black Country industry specifically needs to take action if it's going to deliver decarbonisation. So they're all opportunities for businesses. The first one, so the orange bars I'm looking at, the blue and grey are the problem, which is how you reduce carbon emissions by 2.3 million tonnes a year. The 4 ways of doing that: one is circular economy, supply chain reconfiguration, changing the way you design products, big opportunity there. Significant opportunity in manufacturing process optimization, energy efficiency, reducing energy costs as well, so direct economic benefits. The third bar is national electricity decarbonisation. That's an opportunity, not necessarily in the Black Country, but to sell products to people who make wind turbines and nuclear power stations, bioenergy, all those kind of things, hydrogen. And the fourth column is decarbonisation of heat, which even when we've got a zero carbon electricity grid, which we should have by 2040, will still be a big problem because electricity is not going to deliver industrial heat at the scale we need and the costs we need necessarily. So those are the 4 areas we need to focus activity. If we go on to the next slide. We then make a virtue in the Black Country of a number of specific characteristics to Black Country businesses. So it's an area characterised by energy-intense operations, manufacturing operations. But unlike many other parts of the country, we've got thousands of them in the Black Country rather than 1 or 2 very big ones. So the Black Country is actually 30,000 businesses in the Black Country, of which 7,000 are energy intense, so the energy is about 10% of their costs. It becomes significant, and decarbonising those businesses is clearly the top priority in terms of impact. But because they're small, we can do things quickly, we can reconfigure them relatively easily compared to, say, British Steel or big oil refineries, the big operations, which can be a handicap in other contexts. So we're making a virtue of that. I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. This is what the project's actually doing. Repowering the Black Country is a project over 2 years, as I've said, funded by Innovate UK and BEIS. We're doing 4 things. One is a programme of business support in low carbon process optimisation. So that is consultancy and advice for businesses in how to reduce energy costs and carbon, and hopefully a programme of grant funding to support that as well. TBC, I have to say, I haven't got that many yet. The left-hand green box is circular economy opportunities. So we're working with White Manufacturing Group as a partner to help businesses identify how they can really make the most of all of the resource flows into and out of the business, including changing the way they design things. Effective integration to the spatial and economic development plans of the region. Some really powerful things you can do if you think broader than simply energy, and think about potentially moving operations around, so industry 4.0 type solutions as well, so highly flexible capabilities, clustering them around zero carbon industry hubs, and then supporting that with clean energy. So we're working very closely with the planners in the 4 local authorities of the Black Country to try and identify such locations and encourage developers to move forward with industrial developments in new ways, and encourage local businesses to relocate into those places, because that makes achieving zero carbon much easier. And finally, a portfolio of targeted financial mechanisms. So working with BEIS and the government to come up with ways of making it easier for this to happen, and helping businesses to make this happen. So the kind of things we're talking about there are patient capital, loans to enable people to invest in infrastructure ahead of demand, and loans for energy efficient equipment as well. Also guarantees on energy costs, zero carbon energy costs. So there's all sorts of interesting things we can potentially do. We're positioned as one of 7 clusters in the UK. So there are 7 industrial clusters funded through this programme. That country is one of those. We're the only inland one, we're the only one with small businesses in, and therefore we're working quite closely with our friends in government to try and develop some ways of ensuring that this kind of transition from the current economy to a zero carbon economy doesn't only work for big businesses, but it also works for the kind of small businesses that have been the heart of the West Midlands, or the lifeblood of the West Midlands for the last 200 years. And that model can then be rolled out across the UK. And I've got one more slide, I think, which just shows the happy faces of the team. So it's quite a large project with 9 partners, 2 universities, the LEP, and a financial company, a district heating who do urban agriculture. We have an advisory board made up of all the companies on the right there and the local authorities, and we have a website which will be live on Monday apparently. The address is at the bottom there, but if anyone wants to know more about this, just drop a note to me or put a note in the comments here and I'll get in touch. We're very keen to broaden this partnership. We will be engaging with all 10,000 businesses in the Black Country if we can. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you, Matthew. And it's absolutely excellent to see, you know, that one of the 7 projects here in the West Midlands. So thanks for the update on that. People are very interested, asking if the slides can be shared, but presumably all this will be on your website next week and accessible there. So that's great. We have had a question come from Malcolm Harbour around, should we have a sustainable technology innovation hub in the region to support and demonstrate sustainable technologies? And I think that is absolutely addressed by your project. Yes, Malcolm, I think we should. I think the order in which we do these things is really important. So I think such hubs need to be very, very closely and well integrated into business needs, so that the innovations are pulled out of them by business. You don't end up in the position where you've got a fantastic technology hub with fantastic expertise in it, trying to push that expertise into business, because that can be very, very inefficient, because there's a whole set of agendas and interests which quite understandably drive our academic leaders in technology innovation, which aren't necessarily the same as the immediate business opportunities. So if we're not careful, we get out of step, and that's not in anyone's interest. But hopefully, what's really always what excites me about these kind of projects is the willingness of UKRI and Innovate UK to fund these kind of projects, which are led from the LEP essentially, rather than the universities, and the support of the universities coming in behind us as well. Thanks, Matthew. I think picking up on your point around business needs, there's a question come from Vicky Ayton around the work of this project, thinking about specific training and skills pathways. Will that be a part of your work? I'm certainly aware that it is part of a bigger study happening across the whole Midlands at the moment, looking at the low carbon sector. But how does that fit into your project, Matthew?
So the short answer is it's not within our scope at the moment, and I could kind of the easy let out there is UKI don't fund that. Okay, so we're not allowed to have that within the scope of the money we've been given. That's just the way this works. So had we put it in, we'd have been disqualified. As you say, and I had that conversation with your colleague Alan the other day, it's part of the wider study. There's quite a lot going on skills, and all these things need to mix together. I think it's actually that's the right way of doing it. You know, I think something like skills probably works best at a cross-regional level, even a cross-Midlands level, whereas something like, you know, a reconfiguring industry type project needs to work with spatial planners, so that has to be very local. So getting these things in the right place is quite important. But we do all talk to each other, I think, don't we, Anna?
We do our best. What I'll try and do, if I can, in the chat is pop a link into the study that we mentioned that is very much looking at jobs and skills. But I think we'll have to stop questions there, unfortunately, because we have got 2 other fantastic speakers to hear from, but hopefully we can perhaps come back to some of the ones that are unanswered at the end. So I'd now like to welcome our 3rd speaker, Jacob Solomon from Foresso, who's going to talk very specifically about their approach within their business, Foresso. Jacob?
Hi, thanks, Anna. Hello, everyone. We are a small business, and we just moved to Birmingham just over 2 years ago. And we make a waste wood product, taking wood that can't be used in joinery and would otherwise be either burnt or buried, and turning it into a high value, added value product. That is our product USP, but we felt that very, very strongly we wanted to carry that through our business, and that was the opportunity that we got when moving to Birmingham and having a new facility. So what you see there is a floor that we make, not to everyone's taste, but that's what it is. If I can have the next slide, I'll go through. On the right is what we've done and our approach, and on the left is how people have reacted to it. And from a small business point of view, we've communicated this very, very strongly. So we only use recyclable or recycled packaging, and we are very, very careful about even speaking to our suppliers, how do we receive stuff? And then we follow that through by communicating that quite directly. We treat everybody who works for us as we would like to be treated, which is not necessarily about sustainability in the environmental sense, but it's about people, and they are just as much a resource that one must think about sustainability and investment as otherwise. Everything that we make, I know this isn't the case for many businesses, but everything we make can be returned to us and can be recycled. It's not really so much about that as how are we communicating our business to other people. And then there are the easy things that you can do, but take a lot of planning and money. So in terms of our building, we switched to all renewable energy sources. We stopped 95% of our waste, but also we decided that we were going to compartmentalize our building to remove the need to heat large workshops. So we've built small rooms within our rooms, and that has drastically reduced our energy bill, I'm very happy to say. But it has been a thing that has been incremental, and I'll get onto that when we're planning exactly what we're doing. The other thing that is certainly the case is it's easy to do all these things and never communicate them. And we made a very, very clear case to try and speak louder than the size of 12 people, which is what our business is currently. And that's a big thing. If I could click on to the next stage, just to give you an idea of the practicalities of our business. It's a large warehouse essentially, and we've got 2 of these, which we've converted into manufacturing units. When we first moved in, it was just heat loss everywhere, and so that's why we had the need to do it, and we certainly managed it. And on the left, just to give you an idea about our actual product, this is how everything comes to us. Interestingly, the banding is secondhand banding that our supplier buys. It's because he refuses to buy any new stuff, but that's the only plastic that we have in it. And then if we go on to the next slide, please, Anna. This is really about how we integrated a low carbon sort of thought process right from the beginning. So on the bottom, we were really trying to be conscious about what we were doing. And this is how we started when we moved. And it's easy. That was easy for us because we had a clean break from our old facility to our new one. But nonetheless, any business that we do now, we try and keep these foundation principles. And that, as you go through the normal stages of starting a business or changing a business, we found that we constantly come back to a decision and say, does it actually meet with our principles? And then we engage our audience. And on our website and in nearly every communication that we have, we say to people, we've made a tiny difference. and we're doing our best to make the next tiny difference. And we do that through all of the communication channels. So Instagram, we do updates on exactly these exact things, which aren't to do with our product, they're to do with our business. We do the same thing on our website, and when we speak to our clients, we're very much all about that, and also trying to get their feedback as to what they're doing, and do we align. And we try as much as we can, certainly with our suppliers, we align with ethical suppliers. And we also align with distribution when we sell our product. If they don't share our principles, we will not sell to them, which obviously can be good and can be bad, because you might get someone who's great at selling, but they in our case, we sell a lot of flooring. If someone sells 95% of their flooring from China, and can't show us that all of their businesses that supply them are doing something to do with sustainability, at least trying, then we won't do it, because we're then grouped with a product category that we don't want to be associated with. And it's this consciousness that we can't affect massive things like previous speaker was talking about, which is fantastic, but we can do small things. And it is that thing where 10,000 businesses have a lot of power if people are conscious. And I think that's maybe the end of what I've got to say, but I hope that was right.
That's fantastic, Jacob. Thank you, and so inspiring to see a business, really embracing clean growth. So please pop any questions in the chat. I did just want to raise actually some work that I'm aware that the Combined Authority are doing on a circular economy route map. And I think the way that you have approached and integrated circular economy principles into the way you run your business will be really relevant, and others can very much learn from that. I think just browsing our questions to see if we have any more specific questions for Jacob while we have him. We have got a question actually from Debbie Ward, and it links back to Matthew's presentation as well, around whether something called the grid perhaps partially fills the sustainable technology innovation hub requirement. And I think it'd be something that's probably beneficial for your business as well, Jacob. It's something that is being developed at the moment. It is supported by the Innovation Alliance, and it's essentially an online platform for various communities, sort of peer-to-peer basis, big focus on innovative low carbon organisations, and really allowing organisations to both post their challenges and also share solutions. So I think thank you to Debbie for raising that, and it probably is part of the solution and useful for all of us. Yes, Jacob?
I would say one other thing, that we've had a lot of help along the way as well. The Warwick Manufacturing Group have certainly been a great help to us. The GB SLEP, talking to them about how to achieve some of these things, which isn't always straightforward. They've been a really good sounding board. If we've got an idea, they've always come back to us very quickly. And we have a great account manager who, every single time we've asked a question, they've given us several different routes to try and find the information. So the resources are definitely there.
That's fantastic. Yeah, fantastic to hear. And I know, there's plenty of ERDF programs, for example, out there that can support SMEs with thinking about new solutions and options. And we've had a question from Andrew Stott at Entress at the University of Wolverhampton, asking whether Foresso's technology and products can utilise treated woods.
Yes, they can. The way that we make it is slicing across the end grain, and the only real qualification that we need for the wood is it metal free, so no staples, nails, screws, etc. And is it big enough, so large enough as in the size of it, so we can smash it up into a size that we can use in production. It's an aesthetic product. We are actually developing a new business which is much lower price point and a different thing where we can use anything waste wise. That's the plan. But right now, yeah, larger big chunks of wood. Perfect, thank you. And I'm going to go to one final question before we go to our last
speaker. Let me just scroll down. So it's from Malcolm Harbour, and he asks whether you have experience of selling to the public sector, and whether you believe that public sector customers are putting sustainability on their tender calls.
The only people that we've experienced that care about sustainability are small architectural practices, and generally speaking, companies that want to show their green credentials in their physical space. So Bulb Energy, I don't know if you know them, they're a renewable energy supplier. We did their entire offices, floors, desks, canteen, everything. And the reason they used us was because we align with what they do. We've never sold to public sector. And I think our price point is too high for public sector works. So the thing that we've learned from the past 2 years is if you want to go for that type of thing, you need to have a comparable product in the specification line that they would normally specify, which we don't have.
That's really interesting feedback. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jacob. I'm now going to go to our final speaker, who is Anthony Evans, MD at Sarginsons Industries, who's going to tell us a bit about his business and how they've benefited from the Coventry and Warwickshire Green Business Support Programme. Over to you, Anthony.
Great, thank you, Anna. Good morning, everybody. As Anna says, my name's Anthony Evans. I'm Managing Director at Sarginsons Industries Limited. So we're based in the Tide Hill area of Coventry. So can I have the next slide, please, Anna? Thank you. So Sarginsons has been trading since 1936, and it's always focused on complex and safety critical aluminium die castings. We're continuing that today with niche market automotive chassis applications, and nowadays the growing requirements from EV manufacturers. The components we typically supply relate to vehicle braking systems, chassis or subframe assemblies, and safety critical body and white components. We strive to ensure that the automotive sector is controlled to around about 70% of our turnover. We're not quite achieving that at this moment in time. It's a little bit higher than we'd anticipated. But in the past, we've always balanced that by supplying into the oil and gas sector. But this sector is now being actively replaced with the EV charging infrastructure sector. So today, we manufacture, assemble and attest EV charging points rather than a chargee, whose lamppost mounted and pavement bollards are being installed throughout Coventry and other cities. So we are an SME. Hopefully this year we will return to around about 10 million turnover, and we employ just under 80 employees. Yet we are classed as a large business with regard to energy consumption. We have to use a combination of gas and electricity to take the solid aluminium ingots which we purchase and then melt them to a temperature of 720 degrees C. And then we have to do that's prior to transporting to one of our 3 foundries, which will then consequently go on to component manufacture. The next slide, please, Anna. Okay. So in 2017, we embarked on an investment program, which was based around energy consumption. That included LED lighting, which was fitted throughout all of the factory and offices. We installed new variable drive air compressors. We installed recuperation gas furnaces, both for melting and holding the aluminium. And finally, we installed a new power factor correction equipment. So that investment was £130,000. It was supported with a Coventry and Warwickshire Green Business Grant, and that was based on 20% of the expenditure, but saved 335 tonnes of CO2 per annum. And then last year, we also commenced a second programme with a single investment of £240,000, but that one saving 525 tonnes of CO2 per annum. And again, that was supported with a 20% grant. So our experiences are extremely positive with the Coventry and Warwickshire Green Business Programme. What I can say is their team will assist you from initial auditing of your current practices, selection of suitable solutions, and then they're supported all the way through to the grant application and payment of funds. The claims is really not at all onerous, and we experience swift payments at all times. The next slide, please, Anna. So, what do we see as the advantages of green business practices? Enhanced brand image and customer perception has been extremely notable, which in turn can deliver a competitive advantage. These advantages do contribute to reduced costs and therefore profitability. And we also do believe that in the not too distant future, manufacturing businesses will have legislation imposed with regard to emissions, and therefore preparing your businesses early should prevent future pain. The working environment for employees can also be dramatically improved through green business investments, and these will obviously aid employee engagement and retention. These working environment enhancements also lead to a safer and healthier working environment. A downside can be that investment will be required, yet I hope that you can see that professional and financial support is available to deliver the financial gains for your business. So last slide, please, Anna. So my final point is in relation to measurement data and its importance to understanding how you can reduce your business's carbon footprint. Although we track our energy consumption with half-hourly data transmitters that monitor our gas, electricity and water, it's really important to note that your energy broker or supplier will most likely be able to provide you with some form of tracking data that will enable you to highlight the trends and peaks in the consumption rates of your businesses or offices. So in summary, we believe there is no time like the present to embark on the green business initiatives and capitalize from the support that is available to help you start. That is available from local authorities similar to Coventry and Warwickshire's Green Business Programme. So we'd be happy to take any questions through Anna, or alternatively, please contact us on our website or through social media, and we'd be more than welcome to follow up with any further information. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Anthony. I'm going to take the opportunity to ask a quick question, and that is, what's next for you? You've obviously made lots of changes to your processes and so on, but have you got any future plans, whether that's around your technology or diversification perhaps? Is there anything you could share with us?
Yeah, I think the next things, I mean, we're always looking for the incremental gains, wherever those can achieve. But in terms of the big benefits that we're seeking next, the best that we could see would be hydrogen power for our furnaces. So replace natural gas with hydrogen. Technology should be available. Supply of hydrogen is obviously more of a challenge. So that's probably where we would like to be working next. But there's also the possibility of electrical storage through capacitors and smoothing the peaks that we need in terms of electrical consumption through the shifts as well.
That's great to hear. Thank you. If there's any further questions for Anthony, please feel free to pop them in the Q&A. I am now going to just invite Matthew to answer a question that we didn't quite get round to during your session, and that is whether, this is from Ellen Peacock, and it's whether through the work in the Black Country, there are certain types of manufacturing that will be focused on, for example, food and drink. So Matthew, if you're still there, are you able to tell us a bit more about the sectors that will be the focus of the work?
We're focused on energy intense businesses. So it's a little bit like fuel poverty, which is an analogy people don't often make, but businesses where energy costs are more than 10% of their turnover are particularly challenged by the transition to clean growth, hopefully in a good way. So that tends to be businesses like Anthony's just been talking about. So melting metal, but also food refrigeration is a big issue. And one of the companies on our industrial advisory board is a company called Miner, Weir and Willis, who are based on the boundaries of Black Country and Birmingham, up in Walsall, I think. And I think they're the largest agricultural business in the West Midlands, certainly. And they do a lot of processing of food, and they need a lot of energy to support that. So yes, is the answer.
Thank you, Matthew. And I think this links actually really nicely to a question that I think was aimed for Jackie, but actually links very nicely to that. So this is from Stephen Harris, who says they are a clean tech equipment manufacturer, Mild Tech, based in Telford, and they can process and preserve foods using 80% less energy. So maybe a connection there to explore. But Stephen's specific question is around how the pledge, the Net Zero Business Pledge, can potentially support them to meet the 2041 targets. And I think Jackie has unfortunately had to drop off the session.
No, I'm here, Anna.
Oh, you're back. I was just going to say I'll have a go at answering that, but if you want to take
a day, but I'm back.
Did you manage to hear the question?
So I think it goes back to that point around the yes, I did. I think it goes back to the point around the iteration of the pledge. So we will develop those initial actions, but we would love to hear from businesses if there are other things that you think should be in there or that are missing that could help and support you. So I showed the slide with the founding partners on. We've worked with quite a small number of businesses and business organisations initially, but once it's published, we would love to hear from more people around whether it's working for you or are there other things that we could add in that you think could help further. So I think that's where I would sort of respond to that question, is that the initial pledge that gets published, people might spot gaps or might spot things where they think that we could be providing more or different advice. So we would love to hear from anyone once it goes live.
Yeah, it's very much a developing offer, isn't it? And linked to that, Vicky at Crest has talked about the potential for a toolkit for businesses to help them self-assess and identify areas to focus on, which I think is a great suggestion. If you don't know where you're at to begin with by way of a benchmark, then how do you improve on that? So absolutely, we'll pick up on that via a specific conversation. So thank you, Vicky. I think we may just about have answered all of the questions that have come through the Q&A. So just to say thank you so much to everybody for contributing that way. I can also see that in the chat function, we've had really useful links coming in around various business support programs at Aston, Birmingham Uni, Wolverhampton, and so on. So please do take advantage of those links and follow up with them. Pam has very usefully reminded me that there is a session coming up at 11:40 on the grid, which we mentioned. So please do take advantage and join that session. And of course, all of the other sessions that are available this morning. I'm just picking up on Pam's comment in the chat, and she's reminding us that at the end of this session, you will leave this room and then join the informal discussion rooms where there's 10 different breakout rooms and you can move around between them, very interactive. So do take advantage of that. I'm also going to make a very shameless plug and let you know that SWM are recruiting for a project manager. So if you're interested, looking for opportunities in this sector, please do get in touch with us or share through your networks. And I'm just going to make one last chat on the Q&A to see if we've missed anyone. I don't think we have. So I just want to say a huge thank you to all of our speakers this morning, to everybody that joined us and your fantastic questions and very useful links. And I hope you go on to enjoy the rest of the morning at Venturefest. Thank you, everybody.